everyone, Vanessa here with Paradox Comedy, and today I'm going to be interviewing Gabriel Anthony. He is also known as Gabe Ramirez, and sorry I'm having to do this for my car today. Not amazing at time management, it turns out. So today we're going to go ahead and interview Gabe, and just waiting for him to log on. Thanks to everyone for watching and for joining in. If you guys have any questions for Gabe while we are speaking, feel free to box. I am excited to learn more about him. I've been a fan of his for a while. You can usually see him at Laugh Factory, but I've seen him all around town. So, hey!
Hi. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for agreeing to do this. I'm really excited to learn more about you.
No, thank you for having me. This is going to be fun. I'm stoked.
Yeah, me too. So tell me a little bit, Gabe tried to kiss me and I wanted to talk about it. Okay, so there's sexual abuse allegations.
Hey, who said that?
Baked goods. Was it Frankie? No, not Frankie. It was Carlos, I think, right?
The me kissing people, there's a pattern. So it depends on who you're talking to.
You heard it here first, guys.
Frankie got some of it. I never kissed Frankie. Carlos got some of it. Ben has received some of my love. It's a fun game I play with all the straight comics.
Yeah. And mostly men, right? I haven't heard any women.
Yeah, it's not funny if I, kiss a girl. That's just regular.
That's regular. All right, so tell me about how long you've been doing comedy, because I actually don't know anything about your past or anything. I've just watched you perform several times, which is probably kind of weird if you think about it, but tell me some more about you.
So I started in Bakersfield in their scene when it was a little bit smaller. I think the date I have in my head is like February 23rd is kind of the marker that I have, because that's like the first time my friends came out to watch me. And that was, I want to say 2019. It was just before the pandemic happened. Like just before I had got into comedy and I was trying to grind mics. Pandemic happens, and then everybody loses their mind for a little while. I got into whittling. I got really weird, and then came up to San Diego to see a friend and meet his son. And 2 days later moved here.
Nice.
Mid-pandemic. Yeah, so I'd say it's been about 3 years, maybe pushing 4, or about to hit 3, something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was it like starting out in Bakersfield? Have you gone back at all? What's the comedy like there?
I'll say this. I think that there are some really great comics out there. I would say, unfortunately for me, because I sort of showed up very new and I left so quickly, I never really got a chance to be a part of that scene. There's probably 40 comics out there and maybe 2 of them know who I am, because we've met out here and had some communication. But I know that there's some very strong comics out there, people I really like to watch and respect. Daniel Betts being one of them. He actually opened a club a few years ago called The Well, and they've just been thriving. They have great comics that come out there. They do great shows. I wish I would have more time in the scene, but life just kind of happened, and I ended up in San Diego, and it was great. I loved coming out here. I loved doing what I did when I first got out here. I think it was a great thing that happened for me.
How have things changed since like 2019 when you got started?
I'd say I'm funny. That's probably the biggest thing is when I started, I had some horrible jokes, and I think now I've figured out, I'm getting closer to figuring out who I am on stage, and where I stand and what lines I sort of tread. It's been good. The scene has changed. I came into a scene that had faces I got familiar with, and it's like one day I looked up and everybody was new to me, not new to comedy, but just a different scene, a different energy and vibe in this scene. I think there was a lot more, how do I say, there's a lot of radical people when I first got out here, which I enjoyed it. I tend to like a lot of chaos around me. Um, it's weird. I think I know how to center myself in the midst of chaos, and I kind of can push forward. When things are too calm, I start getting paranoid. I'm like, why are things good right now? You know, I'm one of those
Yeah.
guys. I don't know how to. I'm like, everybody's cool. Someone's gonna hurt me. Like, something's gonna happen. Where's the big gonna happen? It's gonna come out of nowhere. But yeah, I think it's a very good. It's a calm scene right now. It's very nice. If I had to, that's a good word for it. Nice. People are nice now,
Yeah.
and I like it.
Huh. You don't like
I
it,
do like
or you do like
it. I do
it?
like it. I don't like the fact that, I mean, you know, I might be a little bit of a crazy guy sometimes, but it's fine. You know, everybody needs some crazy.
Yeah, I think that there's certain personalities that thrive a little bit more in the chaos and kind of the trying to make sense of it, versus when things are really calm, your nervous system can be a little bit like suspicious of it.
A
Like,
hundred
why is
percent.
this?
You know, I'm like, why are you guys all so
Yeah,
cool? What's going on? Yeah.
yeah. Um, so what exactly like got you started into it though? Had you been following stand-up comics for a while? Were you just like, I know I'm funny? Because when I see you on stage, you seem very comfortable on stage. For you to hear you say that you're just kind of finding your voice, I know that that is something that comics grow into over the years. But since the first time I saw you in like 2022, I guess, it was like you were like, I felt like you'd been doing it for like 7 years already. So like, what
Thank
got you
you.
started? Part one, and then second, I forget the second part.
Um, so I got you. I think as a kid, I always knew I would be performing in some facet, for sure. Whether it was going to be singing or acting or whatever it was, I knew I was going to be a performer. I grew up that way. My parents were both ministers. My mom, she sang for the church. I was in the choir. I did plays and stuff as a kid. I was the kid that you couldn't watch a movie with. Like halfway through the movie, it's my show now. Like I'm reenacting what I'm seeing on there, and I knew that from the start. Like there was never I never had one of those moments like in my teen years where I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do after high school? I don't know who I want to be. It was always in some way somehow I'm gonna live my life and make money, making people happy because I'm so goofy. But as a youngster, my family loved stand-up comedy. I remember we would have like barbecues at my Tia Rosie's house, and literally we'd have barbecues, and if they weren't in there watching like a Mariah Carey concert or Sade concert on HBO, we were watching like a George Lopez special or something of that nature. It would always be there, always be like comedy playing inside the house, and you know, that kind of, once you have a couple of drinks in you, it kind of gears up the tias and tios. And then me being the ham that I was, we'd go outside. Now we're drinking, there's music, and just my aunt would be like, "Mijo, do your cousin Victor, do your tio, like just do impression, do your mom." And I would love that. I would eat it up, and I was like the kid who was like trying to make everybody laugh and do my thing. So my family was always very supportive, and they were the first ones that were like, "You're gonna be a comedian." When I got into high school, I started going through my weird phases, being emo and whatnot. Um, it was there was a moment when I said, "Oh, I'm not going to be the funny guy. I want people to take me seriously." I was just very emotional and in my head about that, and I thought if I was always the funny guy, I'd never have a serious moment in life, which was completely upside down. I ended up being like, I'm going to do my music and I'm going to be like an artist, but I couldn't get away from being the class clown. So after high school, doing music for so long, after a few years, I had to realize I sucked. Like, that's basically what it was. I was like, oh, hey, you're not that good at it. Like, I can sing, but everything else was just not good. And so, you know, one day I just looked around. I was like, I'm going to go try stand-up comedy. I worked at the brewery where the first open mic in Bakersfield was at for like 3 years. And every Wednesday night, my coworkers were like, you should go out there. And I was like, yeah, one day. And it wasn't until like I wasn't working there anymore. I just went up there. I did a show. I did a set. I did well because I did a song. And then I ran off stage and I didn't do it again for a year because I was afraid the next time I did it, I was going to bomb. So that was my entrance into starting stand up. And then a year later, I was like, we're going for it. We're gonna grind mics. I'm turning 25. If I don't do it now, I'm never gonna do it. I don't want to be a loser. And I went for it. And then the pandemic happened, and I was like, I'm gonna be a loser for the rest of my life. I lost my mind.
Really quick, I want to read a couple of these
Yeah.
comments. Said he's been a natural comedian since I've known the kid. You never know knew what was going to come out of his mouth.
I
And
love you, Lewis. Yeah, that's family right there. I've known him. He's known me since I was in diapers.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's adorable. I've definitely. I think that part of the reason why I connected to your comedy is because you do have like Hispanic, like Mexican families. They have like this, you know, you get together, you get the carne asada going, you're getting some
Hmm.
beers, you're with all your cousins and your aunts and uncles, and there is this almost like performative but like jovial, you know, vibe to it, especially because you know everyone's got their own shit going on behind closed doors, you know. So it's
Yeah,
like then you get to kind of like come together as a family and have fun. So like you would remind me so much of my cousins. You're
I
just
love that.
like that performer and the funny one, you know. And it's like you need to laugh. Let's go talk to that guy, you know.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that because it is lighthearted. You do have like a variety of like topics that you talk about, but
Hmm.
it's you really don't know what's gonna come out of your mouth. It's just like and I'm
That's
just like okay, didn't see him taking that there. That's funny. Um,
yeah.
uh, so yeah, so it's funny to hear
Thank
you
you.
talk about going to this like moody, like emo musician phase. What kind of music were you trying? Like, was it emo music, or what were you trying
Well,
to?
that's the problem. I was it started off emo music, and then I found this little thing called cocaine, and
Uh-huh.
that sort of one day you're thinking one way, and then the next day you're like, you know what would be really cool if I played spoons, and you just start doing weird. You start doing weird shit. You start, and it gets weirder and weirder the more you're involved in that life. I wish I could have been like a Jim Morrison, sort of rock star, and I was like, yeah, I do drugs and art comes out. And it was like I did drugs and it was just sounds and there was dog whistles and weird just nothing made sense, but and nothing ADD times 10. So I have a hard drive somewhere around here and I still keep it with me and every once in a while I'll plug it into my friend's computer and sort of reset myself or remind myself why I don't do degenerate things anymore. Because it's just like 1,000 half made songs that some of them are cringe. So it was never nothing crazy. If I could do it now, if like I had a band, truth be told, I'd probably be playing a lot of country music. So yeah,
Nice.
there's
I
that.
feel like I did see a video of you with and you got a voice on you.
Yeah, that's I can sing, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I can sing. It's the other stuff that got in the way. But yeah, well, I think a year and a half ago, there was a there was a mic at Patricio's pub.
Mm.
And so we'd go there and we'd do stand up, but then there was a band and I knew the guys there. So then I'd sing with them. And that was probably the most um, exciting time for me as far as grinding mics out. Because there's just something about, I mean, I think when you're a creative, there's just something about having to get stuff out no matter what you do and how you do it. So if I have a moment where I go tell jokes and then immediately after, like I get to go sing and it's just like it's a double win, you know, and you can't escape that feeling. I'm happy to be a creative. I remember I used to think if I could just be somebody who didn't have talent and woke up and was like, I'm gonna go get a 9 to 5 and start a family and buy a house. I was like, I'd probably have a simpler, happier life because Lord knows trying to become a stand-up comedian is a stress mess, but I wouldn't change this. I'm happy to be a performer. I think I ramble.
Yeah, it's
I ramble. Cut me off if I'm just spitting. I
no,
go word vomit a lot.
you are totally fine. I just keep going. I like hearing this because the more you kind of talk, the more I'm hearing also like you mentioned earlier, like the bombing. You're afraid of the bombing. I'm sure that maybe you have bombed since you have been on stage, but there is also that personality type that you have to overcome that and get back on the stage and find the motivation to keep doing it, right? So you're like, I wish I could have done the normal thing, but that just ain't gonna happen. So the creative, the artist way is almost a little bit more difficult, but you're pursuing it still. So what keeps you motivated to continue on like the comedy entertainer path?
Um, on if I'm being completely honest, the I think the one thing that keeps me motivated is I don't have anything else. Like I really don't. I wish I did. You know, it'd be nice to have a backup plan, but there isn't one for me. It's all like when I say it's always been this, it's always been this. So push come to shove. I remember I was talking sometime last year to Shar, and who's a phenomenal comic, honestly. But she see me like melancholy at the Madhouse. I was just kind of like having one of those days, and she's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "You know what's crazy?" And she's like, "What?" I was like, "That like we'll never stop doing this. Like it can like I could never blow up, but I don't see it in my lifeline to ever give up or stop. So when you know like there's nothing else to do but this, you kind of just have to keep doing it. And as far as bombs go, I'm happy and fine with like trying new jokes in an open mic and then just completely having silence. Like I can deal with that kind of a bomb. I'm just like, oh man, like what's to deal with? And then just crickets. Fine. That's fine. That's fine. The bombs that I can't take are when I have a bigger show and I go in with this is how it's supposed to be. And if my energy is off just by a little bit, or if this part gets a laugh and then this part doesn't, like I've walked off stage and had people go like, wow, like that was a great set. You had laughs. And in my head, I'm like, I didn't have the laughs I wanted. I didn't give them the show they deserved. Those are bombs to me when I just don't give 100. I think if you're going to go on stage and phone it in, just call it a day. Don't even come, you know, because at the end of the day, people deserve a crowd. And I'm not saying there's not bad crowds. There are.
No, there are.
I don't care who you are. There are some crowds that accidentally ended up inside of a comedy club and won't leave. They refuse to leave. And last night I witnessed our first show at Madhouse was good. This there was literally a person asleep, like at the start of the show before the lights went down. She was out, and then I look over here and there was another person asleep. Like I haven't even opened my mouth yet, and you're passed out. So hey, go home.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, take your lady home. It's done.
Wow.
But yeah, I stay motivated just knowing that we're not going to do anything else besides this. So just gut it.
Yeah,
Go hard.
for sure. There's something that is really like genuine about that though, and I think that's probably what makes you so like natural at it maybe, but then also like so compelling to watch, because it's like you do have it is almost like just in your blood. It's just so like naturally part of you, right? So it's like some people I watch and you can tell that they are copying somebody else, or they're trying to hit certain jokes, certain audiences, certain topics, because they feel like that's almost, it's hard to describe it as an audience member, but like maybe you'll get it, but like they're almost trying to appeal to in a certain way to become like this commercially packaged ready to buy comic of fame, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's like there are
Yeah.
some people who are like, no, this is who I am, this is what I know is funny, and I'm gonna make you know that it's funny, and it's like it just so naturally comes out of you, so you're almost like art over like the fame. But then there's people who like, I'm watching you and you're like, you have to hit that eventually though. I think at some point you will hit the timeline where the fame's going to collide with you, because it just is so naturally within you. But I do want to read Jacob's comment real quick. How'd the window break at Madhouse last night?
um, I don't know how much I can say. We'll say this. We'll say this. Sometimes people are very excited to do stand-up comedy and they run onto the stage, and sometimes people fall. And when people fall, you know, sometimes things around them break. And luckily, a person wasn't injured and nobody was hurt. And we continued the set and we had a good time until the show was over.
What window was it?
The main window. So if this is the mic and I'm standing here, it's the window to the right, not the one to the left.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I heard John Wiener on it.
I'm sorry, Jacob, stop. Go away. That was crazy.
Cool. Yeah, so then So what do you do off stage when you're not on stage and performing and you're not like coordinating shows and all that? Like, what do you do?
That was, I'm not gonna lie to you, that was, I was so scared that's the question you were gonna ask me today. I just had this conversation with a really another strong comic, Lucy.
Oh, love her.
And she was telling me that because I told her, I was like, I don't have a show. Like it was like one of these days I didn't have a show and I just didn't know what to do with myself. And she's like, you have to have a life outside of comedy. And I know that's true. I think what happened with me is like right now I'm in a great place and I'm really happy with where I am. But I wake up very early and I go to work. I'm off at 3. I bus home. I get home if I'm not going to the gym or to like my Muay Thai classes. There's usually something comedy related that I have to go do. So that's usually all it is. It's usually work, off, something in between that I have to do to keep my mental health right, and then comedy. So that was the routine for a few months, and I think I got so involved in like, as a comic, you never know what's gonna happen, and you just there's a lot of impatience and anxiety that comes with doing this. So in our brains, if you're not doing stand up and you're not trying to get better, you're not working out these jokes, you're lagging. And there's somebody out there who's probably working harder than you and doing more than you and trying harder than you. So there's a spot getting filled. So I think we're all fighting for this imaginary spot in the industry that honestly probably doesn't exist. I think the truth of the matter is you just get funny, and I mean if you believe in God, I think God will put those things in your path when it's time for you to receive those, or the universe, or however you want to spin it. Um, Everything's working, but as comics, we forget about all of that, and it's just I have to be good today, and I have to be good tomorrow, and an hour after that, and an hour after that. So I got caught up in that chaos, and I've only been doing stand up, and I mean I forgot the other part. I forgot how to live a life outside of it. So I think lately it's been I do like to spend time with myself. I love that. So it's mostly like listening to music, trying to find new music if I'm not at the gym or whatever. But outside of that, it's like hanging out with my best friends that I've had since I was a kid. Like I have 2 friends that live out here now. My best friend Joseph, Jody Meeks, he was tapped in for a while, and my best friend Phil Weezy. And those guys, we grew up together. We went through a lot. We practically raised each other. We all came from a rough environment. So I think when I get to hang out with them, I don't have to be Gabe Anthony. I can just be, Fat Boy Gabe, and so that I've always been since I was a kid. And we just, you talk shit, and I think the best part is like my friends really talk about, like when we talk, they'll bring up, hey, when you make it, it's gonna be like this, and when you make it, so they keep me motivated, and I think that's the life I have outside of comedy, is just building relationships and sustaining relationships with my friends and new friends too. I've been to a lot of new friends in San Diego that I'm very grateful for. And it's a long-winded answer to say I don't have a life outside of comedy. So that's pretty much what it is.
No, but I love that you do have these relationships outside of comedy from people who know you outside of comedy. I think that it is really important to have that grounding, because when comedy is not going the way that you pictured or you want it to, it's like it's grounding to have these people remind you the essence of who you actually are without this identity of being a comic. Because I feel like a lot of people get so wrapped up in their identity of being a comic, because to be a comic you have to get so wrapped up in the comedy constantly, and it's like, okay, but remember you're also a human outside of this too. And so it's sometimes troubling, because I think people maybe wrap up too much of their worth in it. And it's like, but you're still a human first, so don't forget that.
Yeah, and that's that's,
um,
that's the truth. Us comics, I think we don't know when to turn it off, and we don't know when to stop. And because I think the scariest thing is, without being too serious, so for some of us, and I've been a part of this case, when you do stop, it's almost like everything stops. You're just you kind of like lean back, and then you start to realize maybe I don't have as much going for me as I thought I did. Because as soon as you take like the comedy face off and you remove like the comedy blinders, what's left is I'm not who I'm supposed to be as far as society is concerned. Like I'm almost 30. I have a roommate. I don't have a car. Like the things that I'm supposed to be are the things you start to realize when you're not thinking about comedy. And you're like, and then you freak out. You're like, holy shit, I'm not an adult. And
Yeah.
then so I think staying in the comedy mindset is almost a security blanket. It's like, hey, at least here I am something. I'm someone. I'm doing a thing that nobody else can do, and it makes me important. And this is more important than all the other stuff. Um, it's a unless you're constantly checking your mental health, it's a tough line to try to balance out because you're just it's like if I'm not winning here and I'm not winning there, that's when the sad stuff happens. So I say just people should just stay motivated. I think it's nice that when I hang out with my comedy friends because believe it or not, as much as I've heard a lot of comics like talk shit to each other and you rip on each other, I have text messages from a lot of comics that people would consider not the nicest people, and they're some of the most loving people. Like we as a community, especially in San Diego, I think we take time to check in on each other and make sure everybody's okay. Because it's a scary thing, and you don't want to lose people. Um, it's rough. It's rough. It's a hard life, and I think checking on your mental health is good and checking on your friends is good. And I think San Diego has done a really good job of making sure we're all loved. And that's just a shout out to San Diego comedy. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, amen to that. And hey, Lucy Love, I love her too. Yeah, I like what you were saying about like when the comedy stops, you're just kind of like left with yourself, right? Because without the mask of comedy, it's like now you have to figure out like, oh, actually I'm not as far along as I thought that I was. And I can see this. It is just, I'm not a comic obviously, but I've been around so many different
Yeah.
personalities of comedians, and I see the same pattern over and over. And hearing you describe it as a security blanket almost, it's just like, oh, that is what it is. It is this almost like distance and this like safety and the security that you're setting between the person who can make other people laugh and then reality. Because it's like, oh, at the end of the day, it's like, oh, but my identity is still so tightly wound up in that. It's like, who am I without it?
Yeah.
And I love that you're talking about mental health because it is so important. And comedy just constantly is losing people to suicide and drugs, and it's like so sad because it's like you guys, comics I think forget that like people still care about you as humans too. Like without the comedy, like you're still primarily a human that people care about, whether or not you're making people laugh. So, that aside, how do you kind of approach the well, actually I want to go back to, I feel like you were missing for like a few months. Was I
Yeah. I didn't really. I don't think I noticed it, but a lot of people did.
yeah.
And I think and I'm trying to remember it correctly because I don't want to miss like I don't want to describe it wrong. Um, I I think I was going through some things I didn't realize I was going through
Mm-hmm.
until I realized I was going through them. And as much as I thought I was going to be, I thought I was still doing the rounds, and I wasn't. It was going from every single night to like once a week. And I think in this scene, maybe in general, I don't know what other scenes are really like. In this scene, if you aren't really in someone's face too long, you do get forgotten about. So it's like Lucy said once, just the other day to me, like closed mouths don't get fed. You do kind of have to reach out to producers in a respectful way. Don't just blow up producers' DMs. They hate that. I used to hate that when I had a show. But if you just approach it respectfully, usually you get a response. I moved further out on the outskirts of San Diego, and I was just not doing what I was supposed to do. And to be completely honest, I was drinking a ridiculous amount. Like I was drinking a lot. And that's why I'm so big on mental health, is because I've always had mental health issues, and when I don't deal with them when they're starting up, because it comes and goes. When I don't deal with them when they're starting up, before I know it, it's completely taken over. And my thing is like sedation. I like to sedate myself. So wake up in the morning and have a beer is, oh, it's a shower beer. Tee hee hee. I'm doing a bit. But then it's 6 days later and I don't remember Wednesday. And my friends are like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, what's up? And they're like, do you remember any of the chaos you caused? No, I don't. I'm sorry. Um, and then you start apologizing for things. So I disappeared, and I disappeared into a lot of self-pity and a lot of depression and a lot of alcohol. And when I checked that, I came back and I was still drinking. As everybody knows, I was still drinking and I was still being a little crazy. I was just like, yeah, I'm back, you know? And it was so rough until I checked myself and I took time off, and I think I'm a new version of me, a better version of me. But yeah, I definitely disappeared for at least 3 months. And I showed up to a mic drop mic and people were like, where have you been? And I was like, I've always been around. Like, what do you, and they're like, no, we haven't seen you. And I'm like, you're right. But that's the truth. I let myself get a little messy, depressy, lemon zesty, and it wasn't hot. And now I'm back. And I'm doing great. I'm feeling great, and I'm in control of my life. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's given me shows in these last couple of months, and who have believed in me. And you know who you are. All the people who have been texting me and messaging me and giving me motivation. It's a big deal for me, even though sometimes I just act a little crazy with you. It's a huge deal for me. So I yeah, that's where I went, and this is where I am now. And there's a lot of people who have.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate your honesty too. Um, yeah, there's a lot to talk about there, but I think that it just goes to show that once you did kind of come back, how welcomed you were, right? Like, because I
Yeah,
noticed you were gone, and I was like, I haven't seen his name on any shows. Like, I don't, even when I wasn't as active on Paradox, I still kind of see like what comics are doing what, and I like seeing the funny comics getting booked, obviously. And so I was like, I haven't seen Gabe in a while, and it is one of those things that where you kind of get worried sometimes, and then it's like, oh, like selfishly, because I'm like, oh, he's not getting, you know, if he's not getting booked, he's not getting better.
yeah,
You know, like that's kind of like
yeah.
my, like, how is he gonna make it if he's not constantly out there? But then the other
Yeah,
part is
that's the
like, oh,
appropriate assumption, and it's part of it for sure. It's
but
like you have to get better.
yeah, but then
But
the
yeah,
real part of me is like, okay, I just because there are so many mental health and especially like substance abuse stuff going on, that I'm like, God, I just hope they make it back sometimes, you know.
yeah,
Um, so I am glad when I saw your name kind of popping up and you were landing some amazing shows. I was like, oh hell yeah, got to get him back, got to get him on now. There's some comics who just kind of fly under the radar for so long, like to me, just because I'm like looking at other names and I'm like, this is so like far overdue. So I was really glad that you agreed to chat with me today.
yeah. I'm
Um,
happy to do it. This is awesome. I'm having fun. I like what you do. I think what you do is very important for comedy. Um, we need more people like you on this level, because there's not. There's so many. It's from the outside looking in, because I'm not inside on the industry, but it just seems like you're nobody until you're somebody, and that is such a big leap. It's like you either hit 10K followers in a couple of months, and then maybe I'll consider putting you on, like a show that everybody knows about, but or just keep grinding. And that's what we're all doing, is grinding. So when people like you show up and you're getting followers and you're putting eyes on these guys who this is what we do. We eat, breathe, and sleep this thing. And on this level, one follower is just, it's amazing to us. When somebody comes up to you after a show and you're so funny, you were the best one, and you just hear like these cool things. Can I follow you on Instagram? And I want to come to your next show. But for us, it's like, oh my gosh, this is my new fan. Like, this is, you're gonna send me into stardom. Like, so people like you are very important because you put eyes on us when nobody even knows we exist. So a lot of praise to you for what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very much an evangelical for the comics who I like. And so I will always put comics names out there. And people know it too. I just get very fanatical about certain people. And I just, the same thing, like, I really don't like this trend. Well, I understand it, right? So social media is such a big part of comedy these days. And
Hmm.
it's like, okay, that's cool that you can like make a TikTok and make funny, silly videos and but also, and that's like a craft all in its own, right? Like I could never do that. It's, you have to have a certain type of humor and artistry and craft to be making those like viral funny reels. But there's a completely different and almost more like tangible craft that's needed to do it in front of an audience and to do what a
Yeah.
lot of people don't like talking in public, and you guys are going on a stage and doing it usually for free. And it's like you're taking time out of your personal lives. You're losing sleep over it sometimes because these mics can run pretty late. And it's like you're hanging out with people you normally wouldn't hang out with. And it's like you guys are putting yourselves out there so much and nobody's seeing all of that. And I think that that's what makes me really passionate about what you guys do. And it's like, for what? So you guys can just get funnier and like make that joke work or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just make a joke. It literally is. I mean, I think every comic said this at least once in a conversation. But literally, this is the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different, not just different, a better result,
Better.
which is crazy. It doesn't make any sense, but it does because it works. And there's no proper formula to it other than just getting funnier. And as much as we would like to make money, uh, it really just pays off when you have that joke that rips. When it
Mm-hmm.
just rips and then you visit it again and then it rips harder and you're just like you honestly one good set, especially if you use a joke that you're like stressed out about, and trust me, like if people who are regular, and I mean regular people, like really like the ones that say, oh, are you gonna put me in one of your little skits, like those guys, the ones that have no idea how comedy even works, if they hung out on a personal level with comics, just like a fly on the wall kind of thing, they would be scared shitless because the way that we look. Have you seen a hang from afar and just seen the look in somebody's eye who doesn't know if their new bit's gonna work? It's it is so scary. It's I was just hanging out at this show the other night, and this man, which, and honestly sometimes it makes my heart get warm because I see people like this and I'm like, oh, that's a comic. Like me, I know I'm doing stand up and I feel like a stand up, but sometimes I don't feel like a true comic because I see some of these guys and they're just like they're, you know, like, are you going to poop or explode? Like, something's gonna happen to you right now, and I'm scared because they're just like, yeah, I said mom instead of mom, and they're like, and but for them, that's the biggest thing, and you see them smiling. Then they get on stage, fucking murder, but then halfway through the set, they're like, and this is me being insecure. Hey, and like they're calling out their own insecurities during the show, and it's still funny and it's still working. Then they get off, and you see them sit down and like just like, okay, okay, and then right back into spiraling because they have to worry about tomorrow's show with a different joke, and it's like, dude, uh, Xanax maybe, you know, it's like you don't. You start. It's just those are the true comics, man, and I think when I'm around them, I feel a little bit out of place, but I also feel so inspired because you're like, holy crap, like, and they don't care about money. They don't. Money's the furthest thing from your mind. They're just like, if this bit doesn't work, it's like if this bit doesn't work, I can't pay rent, and it's like, what is going? Like, there's that kind of urgency and hysteria with them, and I don't know. I just whenever I think I'm not being a good comic, I think about the ones who I think are, and I'm like, okay, let's buckle down and write some jokes because writing's hard for me, but these guys are great. And yeah, so yeah, we don't get paid, but you do it. You do it because you love it, and when you do get paid, you have an ego for maybe 4 days before you spend the money, and then you don't have an ego again.
I I had like a handful of comics come to mind when you were just describing that type of comic, and it is really funny. It's funny for me because none of the pressure is on me, but it is a little insane to watch it too. And I'm sure that you probably experienced that too, because it's like I saw a comic do, and I'm not going to name his name, but everybody just knows he's funny. I saw him do a mic at ACC on Tuesday night, and then I walked around the corner to Madhouse when they still had mics on every night of the week. And I saw him literally that look that you're just like, and he was just going over and over. I saw him, there's one joke that he was thinking about. He's like, it's a newer joke. I did it at ACC and it bombed. It didn't bomb. It did great.
Yeah.
And then he was like, but I think if I do it like this. And he was talking to two other comics, and I was just standing there listening to the conversation. And so they were all trying to workshop this joke with him. They're like, what if you do this? And he's like, no. And then he went and he did it, and he still did great. And he got off stage and was just, you just see him like pacing. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no chill. There's no chill. I mean, I've been single for a long time. I mean, obviously, I talk about it on stage. It's most of my material. But you gotta give it up to the people that choose comics as partners. I mean, you just gotta give it up to them because it's, especially an open micer. Oh my God, God bless you. God bless you, because there's just a general hysteria that we walk around with, and it's like, I'm not gonna say it's like somebody who's going to war. That's the furthest thing from it. It's not. I almost ran with that, and it's not like that, and I apologize. My bad. But it is a crazy thing because you're never gonna see this person, and when you do see them, they might not be able to turn it off. And when they are on, and you're around them and they're on, you're not a person. You don't exist. You're in the car with me. We're going to a show, and I'm just rocking back and forth. And I'm like, it's not gonna be good. I don't know why I keep doing this. Why do we do this? Why am I doing this to myself? Why do I do this? And they go, I love you. Shut up. And, it's like, it's crazy town inside of our brains when it comes to this thing we do. So yeah, round of applause for the people who decide to date them. But yeah, I love seeing comics and Luki. It's a big thing. Give me 1 second. I'm grabbing my charger because my phone's getting low.
Okay, no problem. And thanks everyone for joining. If you guys have any questions for Gabe, go ahead and put them in the comments, or I think there's a question box that you can put them in. Really appreciate you guys logging on. And of course, the replay will be available as well. And I'm working on getting all these interviews on YouTube because I understand that that's probably an easier way for people to watch these. I'm really bad at time management and at uploading things. It takes a while to upload these to YouTube. So, but hopefully I'll be able to do that here shortly. And then you guys can share these with other people who are interested in San Diego's comedy scene.
Sorry, I'm coming back. I'm coming back right now.
I'm running out
Here
of
we are. There was technical difficulties. I had a lot going on over here. Alrighty, sweet. We're in the game.
All right. So we got about 12 minutes left, and I just want to ask. I think we've gone through. I actually left my notebook at home, and I didn't make it home, you guys. So I'm writing these all on an envelope while I can. Navigating kind of like the social scene in general. I mean, you're a pretty well liked comic. I know you were talking earlier, kind of alluded to some comics don't have great reputations, and people are just like, stay away from them. I thought a lot of that when I started Paradox. Stay away from these comics. Don't talk to them. And some occasions I'm like, they're all right, and other occasions I'm like, I see what you're saying. They're probably not the safest person. How do you learn how to navigate that? And what's kind of your advice for somebody who's just trying to navigate it herself as she's trying to keep this going, and not only in San Diego, but in like Los Angeles and Orange County, other places?
I'll say this. For the first thing is, I think like any industry, like any scene, there's a lot of shit talk. There just is, and that's just what it is. And it's gonna be there. You're not gonna be able to get away from it. There's always gonna be shit talk. My general rule of thumb is, until they've done it to me, I can't really know. Some people have had reputations. Like when I first got into comedy, I was doing Bull Brewery. That was like, it was kind of like because it was post-pandemic, but no full opening up. It was kind of like the hot thing to do. There's this new mic and there's an audience and you can come do this, and I got you guys. We're good. A lot of people told me not to work with certain individuals on that show, and I would in my brain I was like, well, anybody can produce a show. Like I'll let you do it this week, and I'll let you do. I didn't know that's not how it works. So I was given word on a lot of comics that you shouldn't work with a lot of comics that are just bad guys and pieces of shit. And truth be told, half of them turned out to be bad eggs, and the other half were actually just cool people that for some reason had a bad rap with other individuals. So I don't write somebody off until I feel like they've done me wrong or they've given me energy I don't want to be around, and it has happened. Most of those guys are not in the scene anymore. So if you really just take a step back, here's the deal. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and then that's it. That's when my ticket's punched. No more Gabe. And I would hope I left behind a reputation that people will still talk about in a couple years before my memory fades. But if you just remember that you today could be your last day, I think you live that day harder. You do stand up better, and you talk to people better. I'm in a place right now where if I don't like you, that's fine. We won't talk. But I'm not gonna bash you or run your name through the mud. I'm not there anymore. Now, are there some comics that are consistently in your face about it, and I wouldn't mind being on this live and airing them out? Sure, but you don't do that because it's bad for business. It's not nice, and at the end of the day, if you talk too much about the same person, they now have control of a place in your brain, and that's ridiculous. So I think just be nice, dude. It's not hard to be nice. There's a lot of cliques in this scene, and I think for some reason, I'm able to navigate in and out of most of them because I try to be well received. But that's not to say that I haven't been a douchey person before. That's why I had to get my drinking together, because drunk Gabe was fun Gabe until I wasn't fun anymore. And I think with that,
Yeah.
along
So going
and
back to that real quick, are you?
respect.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You froze. Who's
Oh, did I
Marshall?
freeze?
Yeah, it froze. It's okay. You're good now.
Okay.
Marshall has a bunch of buses. Oh yeah, you getting hit by a bus, I guess. Okay. Um, is that what it is? Is
Please
that
let him
what?
get hit by a bus. Please stop.
Uh, that's interesting. Yeah. So, are you sober or are you?
I'm still mostly sober. I smoke weed to go to sleep, and I can have a beer here and there, but I haven't got ripped
Yeah.
in a long time. I try not to. Um, you know, you can, or I think you just start navigating it. When I said I was doing this as a bit too, when I said I was gonna stop drinking, and I told everybody this, I never said I was sober, and I will stand on that till the day I die. I never said I was sober. I said I had to readjust my relationship with alcohol, and I'm good now. I'm in a good place. I can have a couple beers, and they don't have to be all of the beers
Yeah.
anymore, because that's what it was.
Right.
Before I was like, I can't even open the first one because let's see how far we can take this. And I mean, that's with no drugs. I just enjoyed it's a fun thing to do until you do it every day. And then it gets scary for a lot of people around you. And I had to apologize because, your boy was not breathing in his sleep sometimes. And I scared my old roommate, and I wasn't nice to do. So we're good now, though. I'm good. If anybody wants to negate that, you can put a comment, but I promise you, we're all we're all on the up and up here. But yeah, just going back to the navigating through the scene, be nice to people. I think we all need to be more nice to each other. There's no reason you can't work with somebody. If it's just a matter of he said, she said, we I think a lot of us forget that we live in a day and age where you can put your phone down and go have a man-to-man conversation. And there's nothing wrong with having conversations. I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people when I was adjusting my attitude, and though they were really good, and we're friends now, and we text each other and we support each other. A good friend told me I was an asshole, and that's why people didn't book me. And I said, oh, well, maybe don't be an asshole, and it's the truth. you know, just be nice to people and be nice to yourselves. I think when you're nicer to yourself, you don't really worry about other people's attitudes or chaos anymore.
Amen. Preach. That's good. All right. Well, what shows have you got coming up? We're just about to round this out here. Any shows we're
Shows.
going to see you?
I know that tonight I'm at the Madhouse Comedy Club doing the 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock show. If there's a board on the window, we're not closed yet. We're just geared through the storm. And then improv versus stand up is coming up on February 3rd, I believe. At on the 25th of January, American Icon is I'm a judge on that show. It's a show produced by Josh Merkel. He was on here. He spoke about that, and Andrew Parker Davis, both good friends of mine, both solid dudes, people who I care a lot about, and people who care a lot about me, and both of them I think have done a lot for this
I
scene.
need to get Andrew on here. He's another one of those people who I just keep forgetting. I'm like, yes, I need to get him on here.
Andrew is an anomaly, and we don't deserve him, but I love him
I
so
love
much.
him. He's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, so those are some of the shows I got going on. You guys can also just follow me on socials, and I'll post whatever. And if anybody wants to pay me for these shows, sometimes people pay me, so that's really good.
Guys, let's start paying comics, can we? They're going through so much trouble just to get to the shows and to get to the mics and to do all the things. And I think that we should pay comics. The end.
The end.
All
Yes.
right. Thank you so much, Gabe. You're the best. I can't wait to see where this all takes you. I know that you're not just going to stay in San Diego. I just know that you're meant to do greater things. So thanks for sharing your gift with us and for making the changes you had to make just to keep doing what you're doing and what you're good at. So
I'm trying. Thank you so much. You're killing the game, and you're an asset to us here in San Diego. We all appreciate and love
I
you
appreciate
so much.
that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.